in your earbuds or on the streets, celebrating 25 years of talk, news, and excellence with our new KCAA app.
Just do it and download it. KCAA, celebrating 25 years.
KCAA is your CNBC News affiliate. We're the station that gets down to business.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Taylor. President Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum are causing Europe and Canada to respond with their own. The tariffs are 25% on metals that come into the U.S. from any country in the world, including allies. Meanwhile, the European Union announced it will impose counter tariffs on U.S. goods worth $28 billion. Canada also announced it will put 25% reciprocal tariffs on around $20 billion of American goods. A new report is finding that inflation is starting to cool. The Consumer Price Index rose by 0.2% last month against expectations of 0.3%. It also showed the yearly inflation rate is at 2.8% against projections of 2.9%. A person of interest is being named in the case of a missing American in the Dominican Republic. Police say new video has been found showing Sudiksha Kananki and two other men, including previously questioned 24-year-old Joshua Reeb, walking to the beach in Punta Cana. Lisa Taylor, NBC News Radio.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter?
Right? And the best part? They accept Discover.
Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right, so we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
One of the best ways to build a healthier local economy is by shopping locally. Teamster Advantage is a shop local program started by Teamster Local 1932 that has brought together hundreds of locally owned businesses to provide discounts for residents who make shopping locally their priority. Everything from restaurants like Corky's to fun times at SB Raceway and much, much more. If you're not currently a Teamster and you want access to these local business discounts, contact Jennifer at 909-889-8377, extension 224. Give her a call. That number again is 909-889-8377, extension 224.
This important time-sensitive message is brought to you by this station's generous sponsor, George Litchfield Associates, who has important Medicare information for all current and future Medicare recipients about some big changes happening. Medicare Clarified. Medicare is a nonprofit consumer service organization.
It's more important than ever to review your Medicare plan for 2025 from October 15th through December 7th. To find out if you're in the right plan for you, people are calling 951-769-0005. 951-769-0005. A popular and local Medicare plan is improving. Others are raising copays and adding deductibles. Biggest changes in the Medicare drug program in 15 years.
We thank George Litchfield and Litchfield Insurance for their generous support of this radio station.
Did you know that 55% of working Americans would choose a lower-paying job to work under a leader who inspires their brilliance? In today's fast-paced world, resilience isn't just a trait, it's a superpower. If you're feeling overwhelmed by life's pace with hurry and worry, struggling to find a way, discover the secrets with Simon T. Bailey's bestseller, Resilience at Work, How to Coach Yourself into a Thriving Future. Get your copy today on Amazon and unlock your full potential.
Meet Barkley. When Barkley smells gas, he leaves fast. When Barkley hears hissing coming from a gas appliance, he leaves fast. When Barkley sees dirt or water shooting from the ground, he leaves fast. Barkley then calls 911. and Southwest Gas from a safe location.
Did that dog just grab a phone and dial 911?
Gas lines can be buried anywhere, so remember to call 911 and Southwest Gas.
Welcome to the Worker Power Hour with Randy Corrigan, a brand new show about labor and worker issues. The host of the show is Randy Corrigan, Secretary Treasurer and Principal Office and leader of Teamsters 1932, one of the largest public sector labor unions on the West Coast, representing workers in government and non-sworn law enforcement personnel. Randy Corrigan is a 30-year Teamster who first became involved in the labor movement by volunteering his time as an organizer with the Teamsters Union at the age of 21. Since then, he's helped thousands organize, mobilize, and achieve bargaining rights. He accomplished this by spending countless hours with brave men and women all over Southern California, in their living rooms, on the picket line, to bring workers towards victory. This is the Worker Power Hour. And now here's the host of the show, Randy Corrigan.
Randy Corrigan and the Worker Power Hours, KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network, airing live from San Bernardino. Longtime organizer, first-time radio host here today for another show. Hey, Mark. All right, I think Lori will like that music today. I assume we're going to get a text here pretty soon.
We'll see. I'm waiting.
I like it.
Phone hasn't gone off.
You know, no disrespect, Lori, but I liked it. So if you don't like it, we're probably going to do it again. Anyway, yeah, it's got a nice, brings back some good memories. A lot of fun, good time. That's what music always does. It reminds you of a good time of your life.
Moment in time.
Moment in time.
Moment in time.
Is that what it is, Mike?
I think so. Because I always think, where was I when I heard that song?
Are you a voice of reason today for me?
I think I might be.
I hope so, because I've had a day.
You came in a little hot.
I've been. It's like I've got fired out of a cannon first thing this morning, and I haven't had a chance to settle.
I thought to myself, I know that.
We just had, probably almost 1,000 people in our parking lot today. I never even got a chance to leave my office, walk across the building, and look at what was going on.
So, there's something I noticed about the kids of today. When I was a kid, I was looking for the Coke, the Dr. Pepper, mostly Mountain Dew, right?
Yeah, I'm Mountain Dew.
You should have seen the lines at the coffee bars. 30 deep.
No kidding?
The kids were lined up for coffee. Jennifer and I were refilling sugar and creamers, and they wiped it out.
For those of you that don't know, we had a career day today, and we had over 40 high schools today on our campus here, and we had more than 40 employers looking, just kind of showing these high school kids what the future careers could be. They ranged anywhere from UPS to sheriff's department or some cities, public works, like tech, crime scene investigators, all kinds of stuff, public health. It was great. It was great to see the setup. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see. I went into Zoom meetings right away and didn't get to see any of the actual activities, but I heard it was absolutely packed.
It was packed. I even brought kids back here and took some pictures of them in the.
Well, you should have had them come here and just run the show.
No, that's my job.
Well, they can probably do that, by the way.
Thanks a lot.
You're very.
I'm going back to music.
Some different music too.
Right.
We probably won't understand
it.
Just
played.
Mumble rap.
No, they probably do, don't you think, Sarah?
Yeah.
Sarah, we're joined by Sarah Beamer. She's going to be our Teamster Advantage partner on here in about 10 minutes when I get into her specialties. But before that, let me do some real quick recap of last week. We had for our Teamster Advantage guest, we had Donut Town on here from Highland. That was so cool to see the small world. His grandparents and family ran the Bluffs. And then now they have Donut Town there in Highland. And by the way, the donuts were phenomenal. I'm, again, not a big donut person, but I was sold immediately. They do a really good job, use real good ingredients and all that stuff. Keep me away from Donut Town simply because I'm already heavy enough. I don't need any more of that. I guess I should just exercise more. But anyway, So they were great at being on it, and I got a lot of feedback from everybody. Once again, not caring much about the content, more loved the food instead of all the great things we talked about.
You're going to have to get your own version of Triple D.
No thanks. No thanks. Diners, drives, and dives or whatever it is. Yeah, it's actually a pretty cool show.
And the hair.
It's actually a pretty good show.
Can you imagine how large we would be if we were on that show?
I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine. We also had LaTanya Brown as well as Yesenia from our County of San Bernardino talking about their jobs, as well as, boy, hearing LaTanya's story about sickle cell, her son with the challenges with that dormant, the fact that trait was laid dormant until a heavy exercise or excursion. There was a, if you stress the body really, really bad, it woke up and ended up killing him. And it was all about awareness and being tested, having her talk about the sickle cell disease and coming on. Not just that, but talking about her job and how much she really liked her job in the sheriff's department and all the things she did. She's retiring, her and her husband. Thank you so much, LaTanya, for coming on and telling your story, as well as getting the word out on, if you're from a certain culture and if you have any heritage from the Mediterranean area, you should definitely be tested for sickle cell, because you just need to know that it's there. There's things that can be done to prevent you from, ending up like her son. So again, the courage it took for her to come on the show and talk about that was incredible, in addition to hearing her and Yesenia lay out the jobs in which they do in the county. We also had Janet Jernigan from Mayor, the Needles mayor, come on and talk about all the positive things that are happening in the little town of Needles, all the way out 250 miles in the middle of the desert. Really appreciate her coming on and talking about the transformation of the city. We also, the next part of the show, we talk about our shout outs. And so I'm going to do something new. I'm not going to read the shout outs from a piece of paper anymore. We're actually doing it on our live channel. And so Sandy Cabrera from ARMC is listening live. Jeremy Lopez, ARMC. Aldair Fuentes, ARMC, as well as from ARMC we have Clinical Information Department. I don't know, maybe there's a typo there. Markeisha Waller, ARMC Epic, Miera Cordova, and LaRue Robinson from TAD. And we have Jenny Hernandez from Public Health, and Bawu Lee from ARMC, Kathy Bernal, all the way out there in the city of Needles. I just saw her recently. And, I tried to cash in on that steak dinner, by the way. She knows what I'm talking about. She's listening. Michelle, advocate of San Bernardino County Sheriffs, all the way out there in Needles. We also have Lori McMillan Ryan and Johnny Montesina and Margarita Gonzalez, all from the District Attorney's Office. And we have a big shout out to and a thank you to all of our members today that participated in the Career Day. We must have had 50, 60 members, if not more, maybe 70. I saw 50 or 60 of them. It may have grown by that time, that were actually handling the Career Day, is handling the booths for all the kids to come up, all the young adults to come up, and soon to be young adults to come up and engage in what potential jobs they're going to have. I'm going to talk about that here in a few minutes. We also had Warren from from DWA, Desert Water Agency, Sherry Pullman and Rhea Corsellis from Fontana TAD. We have Jonathan Gutierrez and Karen Tinsley from ISD. Matter of fact, I saw Karen earlier here. Tina Avalos Morgan from TAD Redlands. We also have Crystal Olds and Patricia Flores from Rialto TAD. John Gamboa, Brett Massey, and Max Smith, some old names of the past, SBCSS. We also have Alejandro Ariando from Redlands TAD, Krista Kunter from ARMC Nutritional Services, Liliana Aguilar from ARMC, and we also have Susan Loftus and Kurt Garrison from the Sheriff's Department. Again, if you want us to give you a live shout out, make sure that you let us know and we'll do a live shout out for you. And I am sorry if I butcher your name. Apparently last week I butchered a few names, and I may butcher names every single week. My bad. Don't mean anything by it. Just sometimes I got so much going through my head that I just have a hard time reading. And, my bad. That's where I do the long-time organizer, first-time radio host, and that's my excuse, my rookie status. I'm not really good at reading while I'm trying to run a live radio show. And for all you podcasters all there that can delete, go back and redo it. We're not allowed to do that in this space. It's live, and we're flying live. So the next thing I want to talk about is we got a new studio that we're going to be occupying here pretty soon on the other side of the building. It's just about ready, right, Mark?
We're almost there. We have a little.
What's left? What's our equipment that's left?
We got to get the
You're going
board
to love
in.
this. It's all worker powered out. It's going to be just our studio. For here, we obviously have a shared space with everybody else in the station that comes in and does live shows or does recordings. But there, we will have our own space, so we can have lots of fun with design, and it'll be cool.
It also has a refrigerator in it.
With Mountain Dew?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, we can't have Mountain Dew because then I'll be tempted to drink it.
My choice would have been strawberry soda back in the day.
Strawberry soda, right? That was good, yeah. Yeah, Fanta, right?
Yes.
Sunkissed. Yeah, really excited about the new studio coming, and hopefully we'll have it ready. Hopefully Mark Westwood's listening, and he'll have this thing done next week, right? We got to get the engineers in to do the final pieces. Is all the equipment in?
The board's in. The new board is in. And I think it's plug and play at this point.
And then I think we're going to try to have a camera on you too, Mark, believe it or not.
Great. Now I got to lose weight.
Get your camera smile ready.
I'm going to have to talk to Sarah about one of those infusions.
Yeah, there we go. Where's the smile?
Can you get a good looking infusion for us?
Yeah, right. You got something for ugly?
We'll work on it. We got time.
Right. The other thing I want to report on is you heard me reference it just for a minute. We just had a career day here where Becky Leppins, our executive director for the training center, has been working really hard over the last few months. Last few years of building a relationship with all the schools in the areas, predominantly the high schools. We engage the schools on all kinds of different levels with different programs that we have, but specifically for this, what we're trying to do is get our employers to connect to the high school students so that when kids are coming out of high school, they don't flop around the job market and end up, finding into a bad job or getting anchored into something they don't like, and just get it to where you kind of know what you want to do. And from what I understand, here's some of the comments that came from today. A student, my career path changed today. This has just happened, within the last couple hours. One of the kids walking around and seeing all the different options and different types of jobs for the future, and recognizing these are good middle class jobs. In other words, they can buy a home, they can support a middle class family on this. Another quote is, I had no idea there were this many jobs out there. Not everything is to go to work at Amazon that a lot of people, at least that's the way sometimes it's presented at some of these high schools, unfortunately. I decided I want to work for the city or a city. That's great. Some people say, oh, well, why? No, if that's what you connect to and you want to help and you want to be a public servant, and you could see it in a way where, whether it's on the public, engaging the public directly in a service, or whether it's public works, maybe more you're handy with your hands, or mechanical or anything like that. Educators said something to the effect of, you have opened the eyes of our students and made it real for them. And so awesome to see the kids, these young adults, respond like they did in this space right here at our location at this level. And now what we got to do is get all of these employers to stay engaged in the process.
So they went to a job fair but found a career.
Hopefully, and that's kind of the idea is we have a high school to high paying jobs initiative here at the local union, and for the training center, and what our goal is to make sure that kids coming out of high school connect to real jobs, realizing we don't want them at 18, 19, 20 to kind of jump from bad job to bad job to bad job, get hurt, end up turning to a point where they just, not sure what to do, not recognizing all the options, the potential options that are out there. And so we're just making everybody aware of those potential options. And the younger you are, the quicker you can connect to something you like, the better you're going to be, and the faster you can excel into that career. And if you start in that career at 18 years old, you're more likely to retire younger as a result of sticking to it and landing in something that you really enjoy versus being stuck in a job that you don't like. So Becky and team and my staff, thank you for putting on such a great day here. I wish I could have enjoyed it more. I was just stuck in a bunch of trust fund meetings, having a great time talking to a bunch of providers. But so I'd much rather have been out there hanging out with the kids and all. And so some good news real quick I want to report on, and let me remind you that download the KCAA app in the Apple Store or Google Play Store. And if you want to reach out to a radio show, please contact the radio show at teamsters1932.org. Once again, if you download the app, you can literally just touch the app. As soon as it opens up, the live feed plays. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, we are now airing every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. all week. So that started Monday. That's already started. So now you get the Worker Power Hour literally Monday through Friday. And on Wednesdays, you get quite the lineup. You're going to get the Worker Power Hour at 11, and then you get the Rick Smith Show for 2 hours, or for I think an hour, and then you get the live version of us for 2 hours. So you get pretty good run on labor. You're going to get a good 5-6 hour run on labor out of us on Wednesdays. Did you want to say something, Mark?
I believe we're going to be on at 9 o'clock at night also.
Yep, it's 9 o'clock at night. I think they throw that in too as part of the package. So.
Everybody can go to bed to the sweet sound of Randy Corrigan.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but hey.
Hey, can I tell them about...
I put myself to sleep sometimes.
Hey, can I tell them about my little car incident?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So I listened to the podcast after the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to listen to hear where you make mistakes or where you think you can do better. So the next morning I get up, it's like 6:30 in the morning, get in the car. Normally KFI pops on, right? And I'm used to Bill Handel, got my coffee. All of a sudden I hear him. And I'm like, oh, that's creepy.
That's creepy.
That's just not going to work.
Coffee.
That's not going to work. It's too early for RK this morning.
Did you shut me off? I'm just wondering.
No, sir. I never
Thank
shut you off.
Just lowered it a little.
Good.
I turn it down.
Yeah. When you came on, did you hire it a little? Just kind of hear yourself.
Oh, I raised that up.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds beautiful.
So let me cover 3 real good labor wins here in the last few days. The U.S. Senate has confirmed a pro-labor U.S. Secretary in Chavez DeRemer. Her father was a Teamster, and when she was a member of Congress, she was an original co-sponsor of the PRO Act and has worked alongside labor to advance meaningful solutions to labor's most pressing issues. And many may see that the new administration has been a wrecking ball when it comes to labor. That's true in a lot of cases. However, there are some bright spots too, and we're going to definitely point those out. This is one of them. And so the Labor Secretary, the U.S. Labor Secretary, was actually a choice of the Teamsters, and we're glad that the Trump administration has moved in that direction, as well as the Congress has approved her to serve. And we hope to utilize that resource much over the next few years. Also, a federal judge orders the terminated NLRB board member to return to work, bringing back a quorum to the NLRB. President Trump removed Gwenny Wilcox from her position on the NLRB just days after taking office. This move was swiftly met with lawsuits and public uproar, which ultimately led to the federal judge ruling Trump's move is illegal, and it's been ordered for her to be returned to work. So this is a big win for us because clearly, that administration, and politically, no one campaigned on getting rid of all these people in the NLRB. The National Labor Relations Board and the National Labor Relations Act oversees millions. Is an agency that oversees the labor space for the private sector when it comes to workers, and it's supposed to be an advocate for working people. And to see those terminations happen in that space is literally unacceptable. If you say that you're a pro-worker person, that is not something they should have been doing, and I'm so glad that judge has upheld the reinstatement of Gwenny Wilcox, because that's going to help continue to protect workers in that space, and much celebrated victory in front of that federal judge. Really appreciate that happening. Also, the Faster Labor Contracts Act has garnered bipartisan support. And on March 4th, Republican Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri introduced the Faster Labor Contracts Act, which would amend the NLRB to reduce the time between unionization and negotiating to 10 days. And in other words, it's got to happen within 10 days. And it's good to see the bipartisan support in that space, and it's good to see that that's moving. You got Republicans and Democrats both moving to try to protect workers. In a time like we have right now, this is not a time that we leave workers behind. We should obviously be propping up workers and not hurting them in a negative way, and we need to be pressing legislation and policy in which supports that. And so, as another reminder, download the KCAA app in the Apple Store or Google Play Store. All right, so let me get to one of my favorite programs that we have, which is the Teamster Advantage program. And today we are joined by Sarah Beamer, and our Teamster Advantage program is comprised of more than 1,000 small businesses in the Inland Empire. Sorry, I'm having a hard time with words today. I've been talking so much, I guess, on all these calls that I'm fumbling a bit here. Anyway, I love this program because we're promoting small business, and we're promoting the engagement of our members and the community to make sure that we uplift small business and connect to small business versus, go to a small business in your neighborhood versus ordering something online or versus going to a big box retailer, because those small businesses are really what keep the local economy going. We're in more than 30 chambers of commerce in the Inland Empire. We participate in all those chambers because we want to do is stay connected to these small businesses. And with that, I have Sarah Beamer on here. Do you want to take a few minutes to talk about your business? Because this is Wellness Wednesday. We're going to start doing like this Wellness Wednesday stuff here on the radio show, as well as some of our other spaces. Sarah, take it away. Introduce yourself.
Yes, Sarah Beamer. I'm a nutritionist, and we are over in Longevity Lab LA, out of Glendora, but we, service everybody from LA County, San Bernardino County, and Orange County.
Got a little talking to the mic.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
I know. Gosh, Mark's looking at me. Gosh, don't give me that look.
So what you could do is you could swing this mic.
I'm going to swing it so I can look at you.
There you go.
There you go.
All right.
There's the pretty view. So we do, it's a wellness center. So we do everything from IV infusions to weight loss, testosterone replacements, red light therapy, kind of, a little bit of everything for everybody. It's with all the environmental factors out there and what everybody's dealing with, everybody needs a little bit of support. I know with the Teamsters and...
So can I drink a beer in one hand and have an IV in the other one?
Sure. Depends on what type of beer and if you're sharing. Believe me, we get requests like that.
I'm sure you do.
It is all about balance. So
right.
I'm not saying everything has to be perfect, but I mean, that is part of it, right? Even for the workers, everybody out on the road or, jobs are, physically demanding. Back in the day, I was on the road a lot, doing consulting and traveling a lot. Same thing. It was whatever was quick, whatever
it wears
easy.
you down. You're eating terrible food, even when you think it's good food. Yeah.
Right. And you just kind of get in those habits. And so, and those foods are very addictive, and it's kind of hard to really kind of focus in on, okay, well, how can I be healthy? What choices can I make? Or all those things also lead to inflammation and, one thing after another. So that's kind of the situation that many people are in right now, where they've gained all this weight. Maybe some of them need some support. So Mark's raising his hand. Yes. So, and that's why you hear a lot right now about GLP-1s and the medication that, will help, reduce the hunger. But
what's GLP-1?
So that is a medication you probably heard a lot about, semaglutide, tirzepatide. Those are really popular right now. It helps you control your hunger. It slows down digestion. You're hearing about it a lot because it's helping people. It's acting as like a hormone in your body and helping you control blood sugar. And so the nice thing is they're eating a little bit less, and they are able to reset those habits. So,
See, that's always been my trouble. Like, if there's food in front of me,
yep,
I was raised that you better eat it.
Right.
Because it may not be there tomorrow.
You may not even be hungry, but now
that's right. You got to keep eating. Right.
Yes, exactly.
Which is a terrible habit, by the way.
Yeah. Yep. Right.
And clean your plate.
Clean your plate. Yes, and that you hear
Another
that
bad
a
habit.
lot.
Another bad habit.
And then back when we were younger, sure, our bodies can handle it. We're more active. But now when we're, like you said, we're sitting in an office all day long. We're not moving as much, but we're still eating just as much, and food is more, just more enticing, more palatable, and it's right there in front of you. So, and that and that's part of the reason too. Through us, it's not just here's a medication. It really is full circle. Just we want to provide the support. So we check in with everybody each week. We want them to learn how to eat. We want them to, get out there and move, get a little activity. And also, lifestyles are different for everybody. Some people are lucky enough to have more active jobs or maybe too active or not active enough, but it's really about adapting your lifestyle, right? So, I mean, I meet with people each week, or I meet with them in the beginning. We check in with them each week and kind of talk about what is it they do? What's their lifestyle at home? Okay, how can we get them to make some changes? And I can tell everybody it's not about perfection. It's about little changes, and those go a long way. So eat a little bit better each day.
So you guys have programs managing inflammation and joint pain too.
That's a big one,
I
right?
noticed that's a big one lately.
Right. So that
I think
could
it's
be-
all the all the foods now. There's all this
Right.
stuff in it that's creating inflammation.
Right.
I know it's what's swelling me up.
Right. There's
Right.
well, and so there's right. So several reasons that lead to the inflammation. Right. It could be either your job, just overuse, heavy lifting, to everything to the
Elbow
food.
sprain from eating too much.
That's right. That's right. Too much overuse of the spoon and the fork, and so that's where
I got
you
tennis
hear-
elbow back in the day from being on the cell phone too much.
Really?
Before the earbuds were popular.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thumbs,
Left one.
and the tech neck and all
People
of
get
that.
it on the keyboard. Yeah.
Right, right. So, that's the peptides like the BPC 157 you hear a lot. You hear a lot of public safety personnel that use that because the joints, whether it's the belt on the hips, I'm sure, even with, the union members, Teamsters and, in their jobs, it's a lot of wear and tear or just, same position, whether it's sitting in a truck. It's the wear and tear and yes, the environmental factors of the, just the air, the food. But when you have these peptides that are red light therapy, the IV infusions, it really helps to promote the blood flow, helps with collagen, recovery of the tendons. And so that's why it's become so popular. So it's great that we have these options for everybody for all different reasons. And it's not just affecting one population. It really is,
Yeah, it's affecting everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
You got any funny stories?
I knew you were going to ask that. Gosh, I didn't come up with one. Mark
You
warned
didn't?
me.
You didn't?
I know. Mike, you have any?
You gotta have a funny story of somebody coming in and wanted an IV as they just did 2 shots of tequila
well,
or something.
believe me, we've had lots of requests from guys that want to know, can we have a party? Can we literally sit there and drink and have an IV? I said, come in the day after. And so that's a
better,
big
right?
one. So, I mean.
Can you
really,
come in the day before and
day
preempt it?
before? Yes, you can hydrate and the day after. So that's where the hangover, you hear about that?
Yeah.
The hangover IVs.
Oh, yeah,
That's
yeah.
why in Vegas they have those big
They
buses.
have those and then they have these little booths set up along the street now too.
Yep.
It's crazy.
I had a friend a group of friends, they all went to celebrate in Palm Springs for the weekend, and their friend, whoever's birthday it was, they had a session down at the pool the next morning where everybody got IVs. So it's become very popular. It works.
So I have another live shout out from Keurig Dr. Pepper 7-Up, Shirley Temple. Another live. Sorry, I always try to get to them because people want the live shout out. You got to say their name on the air.
Wait, was that their name? What was?
Shirley Temple.
Okay, we're back to the soda theme.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure she works at 7-Up.
Yes. Yes.
Somebody's
Tell her
being
send
funny. there.
samples.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Right. Right. So, yep. So, I mean, all of those factors. That's.
Well,
what
see,
we
I
do.
remember 20 years ago, I had a bunch of friends that went into, they eventually ultimately became firefighters, but they were starting, as a paramedic, and they were maybe borrowing the
Oh, yeah,
the
we all borrow,
IV bags. After they partied too much, they were
right.
sticking it in their arm.
Well,
Yeah.
even at the fires, any of these where they get call outs, especially with the fires.
Well, that's
a
different.
big
They're
thing.
working. They legitimately need that.
Oh, well, yes.
Right.
Yes,
Not partying all night and then sticking a. I just never could do that. I was like, that seems like you're cheating.
Right. Well, I mean,
If you're going to drink too much, you need to suffer the consequences the next day.
a little. Then you got it right.
Reminds you.
Uh-huh.
So I got to wrap this part of the show up. Is there anything you want to close on?
No, I thank you for having us on the app. I commend you for just at these Wellness Wednesdays. It sounds like you're very proactive.
We try to be.
Uh-huh.
We try to be.
You have a lot going on, and you take
Sometimes
care of the members.
too much. Right?
Too much, yes.
Right,
but
sometimes.
you're out there trying to take care of everybody, and you're very health forward, and so that's great.
I
So-
wish I could practice what I preach. I gotta
We gotta
start
somewhere. That's okay.
Man, I'll tell you, I gotta start getting more healthy. I'm having a hard time. I had the scale screamed at me today. Get off.
Right. Well, and that's
And then I stomped on it, and the number went higher. I was like, no, I can't do that.
Well, I mean, what you're doing is what a lot of employers are doing too, is that they are taking care of their employees, doing wellness days, the IVs, testing and all that. So I think it's great. So I definitely want to commend you on that.
Well, thank you. Anything else you want to wrap up on?
No, just contact us or at the Longevity Lab. You can find us on the app, Longevity Lab LA.
Make sure you talk into the mic. There you go.
Longevity Lab LA.
We're going to get one of those mics that swing around and
Maybe
follow
you just
you
have
no
like
matter
one of
what.
those little blockers, So yes, contact us for the weight loss GLP-1s. Everybody gets 10% off. Testosterone replacement therapy, IVs. So give us a call, and maybe we'll be out here one day with our trailer and do a
That's
wellness
a good
day.
idea. We should set something like that up.
Yeah,
Yep.
yep. We're doing that
Car
at another
show.
employer in 2 weeks. We're going to be out there doing
You
it.
guys should come set up a booth at the car show.
Let's do it.
April 12th.
Mark's? Yeah,
April
Mark's
12th.
ahead of
Saturday, April 12th, right? Thanks.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Well, with that, this is Randy Corgan in the Worker Power Hour, KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. I'm going to be joined. I'm going to take a quick break here with a little bit of music. I'm going to be joined by a guest here in a few minutes from IBEW. Is that correct, Robert? I see Robert over there. Yeah. Looking forward to hearing from them here pretty soon. I'll get her on as soon as we can connect all this fun stuff. Once again, KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, the Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network, airing live from San Bernardino. Let's take a quick break, Mark.
Scratch my yonic, it's ironic. Slamming haters like Onyx, lunatics to the day I died. I run more game than the Bulls and Sonics. Going down, down, baby. Street in the rain, come on. Ready to let it go. Listen to it loud. Light it up and take a blood. Pass it to me now. Going down, down, baby. Street in the rain, ready to let it go. Listen to it loud. Light it up and take a blood. You say pretty boys ain't be wild, loud, okay, corralled in us, fouled in us, running the club and busting the crowd in. How then? Ask me again, and it's going down in. Now then, come to the circus and watch me clowning, pounding. What you be giving when I'm around and frowning, talking that shit when I leave the town in. See now, can you come out to play now? Hey, I'm ready to cut you up any day now. Play by my rules, smooth, and you gon' stay. Hey, I answer your third question like hey, I say hi to my niggas left in the slammer from St. Louis to Memphis, from Texas back up to Indiana, Chi-Town, KC, Motown to Alabama, LA, New York Yankees, sluggers to Hotland, Louisiana, getting paid off this country grammar, smoking in Savannah, blow 30 mil like I'm Hammer, going down, down, baby. Street in the rain, come on, ready to let it go. Listen to it loud, light it up and take a bug, pass it to me now. Going down, down, baby. Street in the Range Rover, ready to let it go. Listen to it loud, light it up and take a bug. I'ma show these cats how to
This is
make
Randy
this money
Corgan back on the Worker Power Hour, KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network. Good music, good music. I had somebody here that says, I think we should have a staff wellness day on the Mondays after Stagecoach. IVs for everyone. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. I can think of a whole bunch of stuff to be able to do that. Oh, there we go. We got our Skype connected. Sometimes we have a hard time dealing with the electronic stuff. I guess us old people aren't as good at it as others are. It's funny because years ago I felt like I was up to speed and I was very technologically savvy, and I now do not feel that way at all in any way, shape, or form. I feel like I've fallen off. We're joined we're joined by Gretchen Newsom, who is the IBEW 9th District Political Director. Really appreciate you joining us and coming on the show. You know, unions in today's day are very active, a lot of discussions about us in a lot of different ways. I'll get into that here in a minute. But really appreciate you coming on our show, the Worker Power Hour here. And what do you think of us having a radio show to communicate not just to our members but the general public? Something and it's a live show, by the way, not a podcast. I always have to make sure I correct everybody. That's right. It's you gotta roll with this thing and not make a mistake.
And sometimes I'm a live wire and I get myself into trouble. But Randy, I just want to say thank you so much for having me and how I feel about this. I wished that there were more locals that had taken this on and implement their own podcast and share news more broadly. This is definitely how many of our members are getting their news. And I am all about sharing the news with the members and educating and empowering them to take action. So more power to you.
And we encourage any union that wants to utilize the KCAA platform and, you know, buy some time slots. That I'd love to have an all labor radio station. Imagine that no matter what time you tuned in, you'd be able to catch, you know, whether it's IBEW or the Teamsters or UFCW or, you know, AFSCME or some other union, or it's all labor all the time. Did you hear that? Did you hear that slogan? Is that catchy?
That's catchy. Yep.
So what brings you on the show, Gretchen?
Well, you were invited. You invited me to come on and kind of explain what's happening at the federal level and in politics, and also at the state and local level from IBEW's perspective, and that's the Electricians Union. And I represent the 9th District of IBEW, so think of that as essentially the West Coast. So all of our IBEW local unions in the states of Alaska, California, Nevada, Idaho, Hawaii, Oregon, Washington, and also Guam and Saipan. So we've got over 60 local unions, and my job as their political coordinator and international rep for government affairs is to coach them, collaborate with them, convince them that they should be engaging in politics and government affairs at the very local level. And that's how we get a seat at the table and build more power and more work for our members.
You know, there's so much that can be done at the local level. There's actually more that can be done at the local level than we usually give it credit for. Like a lot of these policies that we see being ripped apart right now by the current administration could actually be dealt with at the local level. There's enforcement capability at the city or at the county level or at, you know, let's say a joint powers authority. I mean, obviously you're well aware of this, and what we have to do is convince these local electeds to take, you know, to occupy this space and jump into it, and why pawn off their responsibility? If people are working and living in their community, why not have some of the enforcement mechanisms that close by as well?
Exactly. And when we're not seeing that, I highly encourage our union members to go get elected to office themselves.
That is correct.
I think too often, Randy, I've seen politicians and elected officials giving lip service to unions, saying nice things at the podium, and then not taking it upon themselves to be the true champions that they told us they would be. Whether it's introducing and passing legislation or just supporting us on the picket line or what have you. But I think it's beyond time for folks to step up to the line and really show us that they support the concept and the actuality of working families and working members of society.
Yeah, and all of us in this space, we need to be more assertive with these electeds, the local electeds, at getting them to recognize that they can be more bold and more they can tackle some of these issues and not just dump it completely on the federal government. Let's say OSHA or the NLRB, or a lot of this enforcement can happen at the local level, and we need to just do a little bit more, actually a lot more encouragement and kicking them along into this space, and them turning action into policy. Because I think what we have to do is we have to mobilize our members on a scale in which the policymakers recognize that they're going to be held accountable by those that are knocking on doors.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what, something just came across my desk this morning, and it's out of the city of Berkeley, because they are hiring a new enforcement agent to enforce their new hard hats construction ordinance and their new Fair Work Week ordinance. The first of which, the hard hats one, it requires contractors to provide apprenticeship programs and healthcare coverage to workers on major construction projects. Should be a no-brainer, right, Randy?
You would think.
Yeah, workers deserve healthcare, and we should be training the next generation with the gold standard, and that's apprenticeship programs. But it took Berkeley to kind of move this forward. And then the second one, the Fair Work Week ordinance, it's a little bit less in the vein of what my members are prioritizing, but I think in the larger sense, it does good for everyone, and that mandates that certain large employers give low-wage workers their shift schedules at least 2 weeks in advance and pay a bonus if they need to call employees in or cancel shifts on short notice. And that's where I got my start as a low-wage retail worker. And I can't, like, that would have been so beneficial to me to know when it was that I had to show up to work. Again, should be a no-brainer, but we're seeing that these issues are being fought for at the very local level.
And it's interesting to see the business community line up and get all freaked out saying, oh, that's anti-business, da-da-da. It's not anti-business. It's pro-worker. And if it's pro-worker, it's pro-business, because you want your business to have employees and a workforce that has these types of protections. Like, it's so crazy to see them freak out in this space sometimes. So
yes, absolutely.
What else do you want to cover? We got you here for about another 15 minutes. I mean, we've got a lot to talk about in labor right now. That's for darn
we
sure.
have so much to talk about. I like to share like what I'm feeling and seeing at the local level, because it is my job to pay attention to politics, and it really is a fire hose of trauma. Every day there is something coming forward that is just so damaging to the working people. And I know earlier in the show, I listened in, and you were talking about our new Department of Labor Secretary, Lori Chavez-Taremer, being confirmed. And you gave her a lot of kudos for that. And we are at a little bit of a wait and see with her. We are very hopeful that she is going to live up to the relationships that she built with our unions in Oregon, and continue to be supportive of the PRO Act. We're a little nervous though, Randy, because during her confirmation hearing, and I listened in personally, she says she no longer supports the PRO Act.
Well, she didn't say she didn't support the PRO. There was a provision of the PRO Act she said she didn't support. So,
yeah, so it makes us a little nervous, but
yeah,
we're very hopeful.
I'm with you on this one.
Absolutely. That is a good one, that we can highlight and look to that as saying there is hope there. So everything is not trauma and traumatic. And then you also reported out that a judge.
Well, let me respond to that part.
overturned-
Let me respond to that if I can. Let me just comment on the part about.
Please.
Look, she stated that she changed her position on right to work. Unacceptable. Like, let's just call it like it is.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard the phrase calling balls and strikes. Let's call this a ball and a strike. The reality is if you're pro-labor, you are not in any way, shape, or form for any version of right to work, whether it's at the state level or federal level. And so her backpedaling on that was her ability to, obviously the political optics of that was to try to gain the position. And I would agree with you 100%. There is a wait and see, because is the administration going to, make her do things that are different than what she did when she was in Congress, right? I think that's what your point is. And it's absolutely fair for you to take that position and to say something like that. We're proud of the fact that we helped move that along. We feel like we need to have somebody in that space that's going to be helpful. And I commend our general president and our administration within the Teamsters at trying to, really advocate for that and work hard for that. But we also need to hold her accountable too in that position, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So I'm sorry for cutting you off on that.
No, Randy, and I'll share. I saw her endorsement questionnaire with the building trades up in Oregon when she was still running for re-election in Congress, and I would share that there is no other elected official that filled out that endorsement questionnaire so wonderfully into what the working families were wanting to see and hear from someone, and taking such a strong, nuanced stance on project labor agreements and prevailing wages. And a variety of other things that are top concerns for the construction and building trade. So again, we are very hopeful that she's going to be able to deliver and not cower to kind of corporate greed and some of the other things that we see happening right now.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. You were saying something about the federal judge. I think that's where you're going with the next point.
Yes, you highlighted as kind of a sunshine moment that a judge overturned what Trump had done in firing the chair of the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board. And so that happened last week. And then on Monday, President Trump filed an emergency motion to stay the court order reinstating Chair Wilcox. So that matter is still something that we're having to fight for and advocate for to get Chair Gwen Wilcox reinstated at the NLRB.
Which is clearly a move for corporate America. It is clearly a move for corporate America, and you know, it's something where clearly this current administration, like, hey, just live with the decision that the judge made. They overrode your decision because you overstep they overstep their authority in doing what they did. The NLRB is there to protect workers, not businesses. Yep. Workers. That's what it was formed for. That's what it was formed for in 1934. Exactly. That's correct. Sorry, I'm getting all fired up on this, but
no, I'm so fired up on this because it's not for our listeners that aren't aware of this. The NLRB is composed of 5 persons. And so by President Trump removing the chair, we are down to 2 people sitting on the NLRB. And as such, the NLRB cannot have a meeting and conduct business on behalf of the working people because there's no quorum. So they are completely just dysfunctional now, not functioning and not working for the working people of America. And it drives me crazy.
Yeah, it was the Wagner Act was passed in 1934, ultimately turned into the National Labor Relations Act in 1935, and it was formed to protect workers' rights because prior to 1934, workers had no rights when it came to anything on the job, especially in their pursuit of having a collective bargaining agreement. Everything they did was by force through a labor dispute prior to 1934, and so the entity was formed to protect workers, not to protect businesses. It was an advocacy arm for working people that was created in 1934 and 1935. And I feel like, 90 years later, everybody's kind of lost their idea of what that purpose was, at least in this moment.
Yes, at least in this moment. And you can see in the election results of this last election that the working people of America want someone that's going to stand up for workers and do better by us. And that is not what is being delivered. It's what we were lied to and said was going to be delivered by President Trump. But so far, that is not what is being delivered at this point. It just is again and again, Randy, like serving corporate interests and the billionaires. And I just blame the billionaires left and right on things.
Yeah, the corporate America clearly has control of this country. We're seeing it firsthand, and quite frankly, you're 100% correct. And the president championed working people and said, "I'm going to be your champion." He never said that he was going to terminate these people at the National Labor Relations Board or gut any of these other
or our own members. All these thousands upon thousands of federal workers that. Your union, my union, we represent them. They're represented by a variety of other unions. And I just have so much grief for them to receive that email of, you're fired. We no longer need you. You're no longer needed. And they've been doing a wonderful job.
How about the part of the news where collective bargaining has been wiped away for all the TSA, the Homeland Security, like a 7-year contract that was ratified months ago.
Historic, exactly.
Right.
Took so much to get that done,
That's right.
And now
boom,
just
gone. You 47,000 workers that you have to deal with every day when you're going through the airport. Nope, you do not have collective bargaining anymore. It by executive order, just abolished. So the reason
that should be a real wake-up call, Randy, for everyone in America that says, "Well, it hasn't affected me yet, so I don't need to pay attention to it." It's coming. It's going to be affecting everyone. If you haven't felt it yet, it's coming for you. Union members, non-union members alike. But I truly believe, Randy, and I think you share this too, of like every person that works in America deserves the right to join a union if they so choose to. And frankly, people are better off if they're in a union. Higher wages, job security, safety on the job. Could just go on and on with the list, but
well, don't sound so exasperated. You know, people have had it. You know, what we have to do is we have to look at this in terms of historically. Imagine people in 1934, prior to the Wagner Act passing, how difficult it was for them to achieve that next step. Like, civil rights hadn't even been addressed yet, right? And so now here we are in 2025. We're very upset about how some of these things are being clawed back. And the reason why I think it's important to raise is that a lot of times federal workers or public employees will kind of take a step back and say, oh, I don't want to get involved in the politics. I have to stay out of it, or I need to be quiet. I need to be neutral. Well, whenever you're a section of workers and you've decided to be quiet, and I will say that a lot of federal employees I've noticed over the last decade or so have been relatively quiet, guess what? You got gutted immediately. Somebody, because they weren't afraid of the outcry to protect you, or you to protect yourself. And so I think this is part of our, you know, freedom to assemble, our freedom of speech. If we acquiesce our freedom of speech, or our, you know, in labor, it's protected concerted activity, right, which is all founded in the First Amendment, which is freedom of speech and freedom to assemble. That's actually the argument that took place in 1934 to anchor protected concerted activity in labor law. My point to bringing it up is if you acquiesce it, then someone's going to come and take it, which is what we're witnessing right now. And it's not an exaggeration or a distortion of the truth. It's what's happening.
No, it's absolutely not. And it's going to take all of us standing together in solidarity and not being divided from one another as saying, well, it's that union's issue. They're being fired. My members aren't being fired. And it's going to take all of us standing together. And by the way, my members are being fired. So we've just had some that have occurred at the Bremerton shipyard. We've also had some linemen that are responsible for providing a third of the power to the Pacific Northwest received these firing notices, many of which have since been rehired because they finally figured out that they need to keep the lights on. And that these are essential workers, and all of these federal employees do matter. But it's us going and battling for our members, and that's what unions do, is we represent our members and we battle for them. So we're going to continue that effort, and it's going to be a long slog, and every day is a new battle, but we're in it to win it. So.
Right, and what I would encourage people to look at is how to get things done and how to hold people accountable. So in other words, if you voted for Trump because you felt like he was going to be your champion, then you need to pick up the phone, call your elected official, call your senator, call your congressperson, write a letter. You need to reach out and say, hey, I felt you were going to be somebody that supported ABC, and I do not see that in these policies. Because ultimately, we need to recognize that that's the voice that everybody, that the elected officials are going to listen to. We just got a short couple minutes here left. Gretchen, is there anything you'd like to close on?
Following up on that, Randy, I think that not only calling your elected official and making your voice known, but also building and strengthening our community and sharing what is happening to you with your family members, your neighbors, your other union members, your community. Too often, like, these stories don't get told, and for you to be bold enough to step forward and say, this is what is happening to me and how it has affected me, goes a long, long way. And I'd want to end it with a reminder to take care of yourself, take care of each other, and just keep fighting. We're going to fight like hell.
We've been joined by Gretchen Newsom, the IBEW 9th District Political Director from the great International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Really appreciate you taking the time on the show. Hope you enjoyed the platform that we have. Just so you know, we have 335 listeners in France on top of everywhere else. We like to brag about that because we're still trying to figure out how that's happening. But hey, you know, because we got some here. You got a sprinkling of here and there. So with that, thanks for coming on the show. Again, hope that more organizations do platforms like this, we would love to help kind of coordinate it and put it all in the same space. This is Randy Corrigan, the Worker Power Hour, KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, the Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network, live from San Bernardino. Take it away, Mark. See you at the break.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Taylor. A federal judge is ruling that a pro-Palestinian Columbia University activist will remain jailed in Louisiana following today's deportation hearing in New York. Manhattan federal judge Jesse Furman has ruled that Mahmoud Halil will remain held while he weighs further arguments in the deportation case. The White House says his pro-Palestinian activism was anti-Semitic and pro-Hamas. A person of interest is being named in the case of a missing University of Pittsburgh student. Police say new video shows Sadishka Kananki and two other men, including previously questioned 24-year-old Joshua Reeb from Iowa, walking to the beach in an upscale Punta Cana resort in the Dominican Republic.
So we want to make sure that we get, and I think he's made some statements that may be a little inconsistent. We want to make sure we lock those down.
That's Loudoun County, Virginia Sheriff Michael Chapman. Kananki's family is from Virginia, and Chapman says he's been helping the FBI with the investigation. Lisa Taylor, NBC News Radio.
Are you looking for a good union job? The Inland Empire's 14,000 member strong Teamsters Local 1932 has opened a training center to get working people trained and placed in open positions in public service clerical work and in jobs in the logistics industry. This is a new opportunity to advance your career and raise standards across the region. Visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
I always hear from our clients who hired another firm that they wish they'd hired DNA Financial first. Don't have regrets about your IRS tax case. Just hire the best in the first place.
One owed $150,000 to the IRS and had spent thousands on another firm. We stopped the levies, negotiated a payment plan, and had their penalties forgiven.
And while every case is different, we guarantee that we'll find your perfect resolution and get it done right.
For a free consultation, call us at 866-201-0156. That's 866-201-0156. Then you can say, DNA did right by me.
Community Matters with Lillian Vasquez. The Yucaipa-Cala Mesa School District recently invited children's author Matt Barnett to visit 3 campuses, giving students a chance to meet a real author whose books are actually in their school library. Barnett has written 62 books, including picture books, chapter books, and graphic novels. I caught up with him at Chapman Heights Elementary in Yucaipa, where he shared why he likes to talk to the kids just so he can talk about being a writer.
You know, when I was a kid, nobody in my family was a writer. I'd never met a writer, and a writer had definitely never visited my school. You know, we had police officers, firefighters, doctors, talking about their professions. I wanted to be a writer, and I didn't know if writers were real, right? They all seemed like people who lived somewhere else or lived 100 years ago. So one thing I want to do is just show up and just be like, hey, I'm just a person. I love books. I like making up stories. And this is a job. This is a real job. And if you're interested in it, it's something you could do. The most important part of this job isn't writing books. The most important part of the job is to read books. So I say, read a lot of books, read different kinds of books, different genres, different lengths, read books you like, read books you don't like. You will learn more from the books you don't like than the books you love about how to write a book you want.
His newest series will be The First Cat in Space. The first book of the series is The First Cat in Space Ate Pizza.
It's about a cat who gets blasted into space to save the moon from being eaten by rats.
For Community Matters, I'm Lillian Vasquez.
Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau d'Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood, which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E, B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea, and then the word club. The complete website is TahiboTeaClub.com. Or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TahiboTeaClub.com.
In these times, sometimes you have to take away the stress or dress to impress. Lux Transportation has just the ticket for you and your needs to relax, kick your feet up in style, and make some new fun memories. Looking for a hassle-free, comfortable ride? Experience the ultimate in luxury. Transportation in a sleek, luxurious black-on-black SUV. Private, discreet rides, airport runs, sightseeing, proms, weddings, and romantic date nights are all ahead in your future with Lux Transportation. Karaoke, disability-friendly, and no problem, we're also senior citizen-friendly too. Call or text Mr. Hollins to take away the stress at 951-399-5425. That's 951-399-5425. Lux Transportation, when you need the absolute best.
Welcome to the Worker Power Hour with Randy Corrigan, a brand new show about labor and worker issues. The host of the show is Randy Corrigan, Secretary Treasurer and Principal Office and leader of Teamsters 1932, one of the largest public sector labor unions on the West Coast, representing workers in government and non-sworn law enforcement personnel. Randy Corrigan is a 30-year Teamster who first became involved in the labor movement by volunteering his time as an organizer with the Teamsters Union at the age of 21. Since then, he's helped thousands organize, mobilize, and achieve bargaining rights. He accomplished this by spending countless hours with brave men and women all over Southern California, in their living rooms, on the picket line, to bring workers towards victory. This is the Worker Power Hour. And now here's the host of the show, Randy Corrigan.
My old favorite, Fleetwood Mac. Gotta love it. Randy Corrigan in the Worker Power Hour, KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and the Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network, airing live from San Bernardino. Yes, and streaming as well on the internet and all kinds of other platforms. So make sure you use the KCAA app when you can. You can actually just touch the app and open it up, and all of a sudden you get the live stream of what's going on the air. Yes, we have a live radio show. I'm next being joined by Robert Sandoval. He's the president of Teamsters Local 350 up in the Bay Area. And before that, I just want to talk to Mark about, did you pull the Fleetwood Mac because of the positive interaction on the Fleetwood Mac last time, or?
I pulled that up for you. You were having a rough day.
It was all me?
Yeah, I just figured I'd throw some Fleetwood Mac at you. It always makes you happy.
Well, you know, it's good. It's good music. Like it's
feel
definitely
good stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely feel good music. I would assume most people would agree with that. And so, you know, here we are. And
wait
also,
for the comments.
Yeah, right. The comments will be coming soon. I got a couple corrections from the last hour. First of all, we had almost 90 rank and filers here during the career day. Our rank and filers were managing the booths of all of the careers in which these kids from the high schools, nearly 600 of them, showed up to today at our facilities here, looking at what jobs or careers they may be tapping into in the future, and hearing comments of my career path has changed today. I had no idea there were that many jobs. Good to hear educators say to the effect of, you have opened the eyes of our students and made it real for them. Seeing the students, high school students, connect to good Teamster union jobs in the community and recognizing some things that maybe they didn't see before because they weren't exposed to it. We had 40 high schools here participating in this event, and we really, really are excited about this next phase of the training center and how we're engaging the community and building it out. So on top of our radio show and our Teamster Advantage program with all the small businesses, as well as with the training center, engaging directly with the employers in the area and the high schools, fulfilling our high school to high paying jobs initiative. Very exciting day to see that much activity here, and kudos to our nearly 90 members who helped facilitate each of those career paths for all of those high school kids. Yeah. You were gonna play some music for us, Mark, celebrating it, or what? Or did you just push the wrong button? See, that's what we love about Robert. It's what we love about live radio is that this isn't a podcast that you get to go back and delete and reboot. You just got to kind of roll with it when it happens. So, welcome, Robert. Really appreciate you coming on, and the great local 350 up in. I believe you're headquartered in San Francisco. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, Teamsters Local 350, based out of San Francisco. But before I begin, I just want to say what you're doing down there in San Bernardino and in those counties is tremendous. In the commercial break, I heard just the commercial itself, and that is extremely powerful. So hats off to you and the work that you're doing down there, empowering working people, bringing folks into the labor movement, because it is a powerful movement that we need to bring more folks into, and you're doing a hell of a job. So definitely hats off to you and kudos to you and your team on that.
Well, thank you. I just got someone sent me a text, said, Randy, I thought your favorite was Oingo Boingo. You were right. My favorite is Oingo Boingo. So, but you can't. Fleetwood Mac is one of my favorites, but yes, if somebody's gonna text me and call me out directly, and I appreciate the live shout out, by the way. See, this is what happens when you run a live show. Somebody else is listening to me, and this person's actually all the way in Arizona. It's a retiree, a Teamster retiree. He's like, hey, no, Randy, I know Oingo Boingo is your favorite. So anyway, you gotta love it. You gotta love it.
But yeah, so Teamsters Local 350, we are based in San Francisco. We were chartered October 6th, 1936. So we will be celebrating our 89th anniversary, I believe, this year. Our jurisdiction covers San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, and San Benito County. So 4 counties. We are what's considered a craft local, specialty local, where we focus primarily on solid waste and recycling. So we have one of the largest solid waste and recycling locals in the nation. And we have some public sector, some linen, but our craft really is solid waste and recycling. So that's what we do primarily.
That's a tough job. Boy, that's a tough job. It's a tough industry. That's tough.
It definitely is. Yes. Always ranked within, top 5, top 7 most dangerous jobs in the country. I myself am a 3rd generation Teamsters Local 350 member. My grandfather ran Local 350 for 35, 40 years. He was Bob Morales. My dad was a garbage man for 10, 15 years. And I myself just followed in the footsteps of my dad and my grandfather and just worked in the local and have the high honor of representing, the membership here, and love what I do. Absolutely.
Interesting point. I did not know that Bob was your grandfather.
Yes. Yeah.
I knew him.
I'm named after him. That's why I'm Robert.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was going to ask. I'm assuming you're named after him. Well, that's good. That's awesome. No, it's a nice little connection. Obviously, I knew him well back in the day, and a huge advocate in this industry for you. We obviously in the public sector we represent some solid waste in the public sector, with their cities and some of the agencies in which we have. So not like you guys do on the scale that you do, but man, you got to hand it to those in that industry. That's a tough job.
Yeah, it is, and our workers here, especially in San Francisco and San Jose, I mean, they've seen some stuff, just to put it mildly, throughout their tenure, and they work around the clock, right? In San Francisco, it's a 24/7 operation, and these are truly unsung heroes, especially during the pandemic. They were out there, no days off, working day and night, making sure the cities were clean, making sure your refuse was getting collected, your recycling was getting collected, because that was a huge uptick during COVID. Was everybody was purchasing online, so recycling just went through the roof.
Yes, very
packages
true.
went through the roof. So our members, answered the call and kept on working. Our drivers, our sorters, our mechanics, our clerical members.
So say sorters, for those people that don't know what that means, explain how
Sure.
difficult the job of a sorter is in a transfer facility or any of these
Yeah.
facilities. Like it is. I won't steal your thunder. I'll let you explain
Yeah,
it.
sure. Yeah, so a sorter or material handler, it is a tough job. So essentially what happens is the garbage truck driver or recycling truck driver, they dump their material right on the line, and then it gets processed on a belt essentially. And this belt is going at various speeds, sometimes a little too fast, but the individual basically picks material from the belt. If it's a recycling belt, they'll divert material from landfills, right? The whole goal is to divert as much material from landfills to be reused, reprocessed, repurposed. And they will do that with plastics, with wood, aluminum, and they're constantly picking this material out of.
They're picking through our trash.
Basically, they're picking through trash, right?
That's
and
great.
a lot of people have this misconception of, oh, well, I'll throw a pizza box into the recycling container and it's okay because somebody will sort it out, not realizing that if you do that, you're actually soiling the
rest
good
of the stuff.
recycling products. So everything else is actually no longer usable. So everything now has to go to landfill. So you're not really doing a good service by doing that, right? So just some.
So don't put
educational
your pizza box in the recycling. Your pizza
right.
box, if it's been used, if your pizza box has not been used and it's just pure cardboard, that's different. But it's most likely been used and it's got oil and everything on it. It's got to go in the trash.
Correct. Yes.
Somebody, I think a lot of people learned something new today.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
I actually recently learned that myself just in the last couple of years. I just didn't realize something that simple. You're trying to think you're doing the right thing, but you got to listen. Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad you brought that up. It's just a great point of interest to make sure listeners know what they can do to make another Teamster's job easier.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And it's interesting in this area in San Francisco, because as I said, we also represent members in Santa Clara County, which is, as we know, the hub of and the home of Silicon Valley, right? So we're always dealing with new innovations, new technology, and as we are all aware, automation, AV, AI is a big issue, right? Coming up, especially for the Teamsters and things like that. So we're constantly, speaking with legislators, with elected officials, to ensure that we are putting things in place to protect our members and our workforce, and passing pieces of legislation that will protect the membership. There's this misconception that union members and the Teamsters are anti-technology and things like that, but that is incorrect, because I always say, if we were, we would have been long gone, because we started out with horse and buggy, but obviously we've rolled with the punches and we're still here, right? So that's incorrect. So, we just adapt and we try to do what we can. And I feel we've been extremely successful in the political arena, especially here in the Bay Area.
Yes, you guys have been very, very successful at running policy for workers in that area. I know a lot of people will say, oh, them liberals are doing this and doing that. And I try not to get into those type of labels. What I like to talk about more is the policy for working people. That, matter of fact, on the Amazon campaign, your area was very, very helpful at rejecting a lot of buildings because of the policymakers and your relationships with the policymakers up there. Robert, thank you for your local and the labor movement in the region did a great job of actually preventing Amazon's footprint from becoming larger in the San Francisco area. Actually, you guys were successful at at creating moratoriums, at preventing the build out of delivery stations and a number of things because the area couldn't handle more of that, and it was in an effort to protect the good union jobs that were already there in the area. Thank you for all the work that you did in that space. It's been very helpful, and it continues in other avenues.
Yeah, absolutely. And, not a problem. I appreciate, the work that you've done to really bring that up and put a spotlight on it because we, following your lead, but with the leadership here that we have, and when I say leadership, I mean the county supervisors, right? In San Francisco, it's a city and county. So our supervisors, regardless of what spectrum of the political arena they are all Democrats, but, progressive Democrat, moderate, whatever you want to call it, they all understand that working people and labor has a very strong foothold in San Francisco. San Francisco is very much a union town, a union city, and specifically in the district where they were trying to build this Amazon warehouse. It's the district where I live in, actually, District 10. Once we educated the public as well, the community organizations, the supervisor, that, yeah, okay, they're bringing in 1,000 jobs or whatever the case may be, but are they good union paying jobs? Are they going to provide health and welfare? Are they going to provide a pension? Is it going to create more traffic? All of these issues arose and people came to realize, wait a minute, this is all a race to the bottom. What's the point of creating all these things if at the end of the day, these individuals, these workers are more than likely going to have to rely on social services. It's just this never-ending doom cycle that these billionaires and corporations are creating and then turning around and saying, well, you know what, you guys don't deserve the increases that you're getting, which is obviously problematic, right? But yeah, we've been very successful here with the supervisors that we have in place, the electeds that we have in place, and politics does go a long way. Politics and labor, in my opinion, go hand in hand. No question.
Absolutely, because what happens is people want to turn out. They want to. I don't know if you heard earlier when I was on with Gretchen, but federal workers have been pretty quiet for a while, and they have kind of they felt like they didn't have a voice, and then as a result, we see this immediate attack on their jobs, and the reality is there's a lot of people in the space right now that are attacking those jobs that want to privatize a lot of that work to where those tax dollars actually go to a private entity. And I always find it very confusing when the general population kind of falls into this trap because privatizing some things actually doesn't make it more efficient. Most of the time it actually makes it less efficient. I know that's not the rhetoric or the narrative that you hear from multi-billionaires, like they say, because they want their hands, there's one of them in particular that gets $8 million a day in tax credits and tax subsidies a day, 8 million a day,
right.
And complaining about tax waste everywhere else. Like, most of their companies don't even pull a profit, and then they bury them, bankrupt them and throw them on the taxpayer's dime and move on. Meanwhile, they're pulling out, tons of money and putting it in there from their front pocket to their back pocket. My point to it is that if we keep our voice silent, like federal workers have, that then all of a sudden everybody comes for us.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about that. And to your point about, this individual getting, the tax breaks and earning, how, I don't know, God knows how much every second, right? Because of the massive amounts of wealth that he has. There is no question that we as a labor movement, as labor leaders, as rank and file members, there's no question that we cannot fight that money machine, right? That is just not possible. But what we do have is the rank and file. We do have the voices of the rank and file, of the elected leadership. And that, to me, definitely stands for something and means a lot. And to your point about not voicing your opinion or being heard, there's this, I want to say, misconception or perception of some folks think that, oh, you know what, national politics or local politics, it doesn't affect me. I'm just going to worry about me and my family, and everything else is irrelevant. And while absolutely you should care about you and your family, but what happens around you definitely impacts you. And if you're not in politics to some degree, if you're not involved, if you're not aware, it will eat you up. Which is why I strongly and I'm a firm believer that politics, being involved in politics, is the way to go to have a voice within the party, right? I'm very active within the Democratic Party here in San Francisco Bay Area, because if we want the Democratic Party or any party, wherever you stand, if you want your voices to be heard, you have to be in the game.
Well, and that goes to the Republicans now too. Republicans that believe the party should support working people should absolutely be active within their party to make sure that their party is actively supporting working people. And I think this is where the points of contention come in sometimes. And I try not to get into this blowout on wedge issues. I will definitely get into a blowout on labor issues, right? Like the reality is let's use the person we just talked about a few minutes ago without saying their name. I just did the math, and if the $8 million a day is correct, that's $93 per second in tax dollars that somebody is getting every second. Meanwhile, running around with a chainsaw and a T-shirt, acting like he's acting to say, "Oh, I'm going to cut this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that," and trying to make it sound like these people are not doing anything and it's all waste. We could probably, if you look at, just use an example of SpaceX, and you look at all of their technology was born out of NASA, right? You decades of working people, union workers for decades, figuring out some of the most complicated situations when it comes to space travel or rocket building. That some of these entities, whether Blue Origin or SpaceX or Virgin or any of them, the private part of this entity, which is how private is it if it's getting $93 a second, right? I mean, you may call yourself private, but you're being funded by literally billions of dollars in tax dollars, but you're saying I'm a private entity. Anyway, we can have that conversation at another date. My point is that entities like that got all of their information from an institution like NASA, which was publicly funded to make sure somebody walked on the moon, right? Like that technology, or all the other things we did with the space shuttle program and the rest of it. Like it's funny that you can take all that knowledge and take all that information. The other one is pharmaceuticals, an issue I'll point out to you. A university who's utilizing lots of tax dollars, and an institution does all this research and all this work, and then finds, oh, this is something that's going to work, and then a private company comes in, grabs it, and then moves on and says, oh yeah, well we're the ones going to make all the money on it. Like I try to get into this space so that people listening aren't fooled by these narratives that make you think, well, that's not going to affect me. Well, it is going to affect you actually someday. If you allow them, I was having this discussion with somebody earlier. I was pointing it out, and someone said, well, they served in the military, and it was an example of someone that served in the military, and I said, well, if you're only thinking about yourself in this circumstance and doesn't affect you, were you taught to leave a soldier on the field? Mm-hmm. Don't leave people behind. Why would we be okay to leave them behind at work? No. Our sense of community needs to follow us in every aspect of life. This is not convenient for us to just drop in this particular moment because of other wedge issues like abortion or all this other stuff that gets people screaming at each other and want to stick pins in each other's eyes.
Yep. I mean, you're exactly right. There needs to be community. We need to get back to that community. And just funny little story about that, a little anecdote. I had a member who, fortunately was terminated, and he had different political ideologies, and he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, Robert, are you going to represent me?" And he had some history, with my grandfather. Actually, he was a longtime member, and they had their history. But he and I got along cordial, and I said, "Of course, why wouldn't I?" He said, "Well, you know where I stand politically. I'm very vocal about it." I said to the member, "That to me is irrelevant. That has no bearing on how I'm going to represent you as a member, because to me, all of my members are equal regardless of your political ideology, because that is irrelevant in this point in time." And I think for us in labor, we really need to get back to that, in my personal opinion.
Yes.
Right. And really just focus on what is in the best interest of working
labor
people and labor. That is what we really need to focus on, because if we're, voting against our own self-interest, then, we're not doing justice to ourselves, and we're fighting twice as hard, 3 times as hard.
Well, like we're having to do right now, since January, actually since November 6th, because things already started on November 6th, those of us in labor, we can all attest to how much more difficult the job has become instantaneously. And it's exponentially getting more and more difficult as each day goes on. I've actually had a lot of people look at me and say, "Randy, you look like, you need to get some sleep and this and that." And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty rough right now. We're trying to work through all this. We're trying to be proactive. But one of the things I explain to people is I've spent my entire adult life advocating for working people, and please don't just throw out the opinion. My opinion, if you're really wanting to know our perspective on labor, it comes from literally my entire adult life. Like, this isn't because I want to see the Democrats win over the Republicans, like the Dodgers versus the Yankees. This is more of what policy is going to affect everybody that we represent. And to your point earlier about making sure you represent somebody, even if they're on the opposite side, their ideology is different, especially politically. If the reality is if it happens to that person, we're the ambassadors of equality, because what we want to make sure is, regardless of that ideology, if it can happen to them, it can happen to me. And even if I don't like this person, or I don't like what they stand for, it has nothing to do with the facts in which is impacting that individual's employment. That's where labor is pretty disciplined. We're pretty good about that, and I think that gets overlooked a lot. We get tagged with this whole, labor's just for Democrats. Well, I mean, we've endorsed more of them because they seem to be more friendly. We don't run into the problems we're running into now when a Democrat gets elected. Like these things that are happening right now, we don't run into these issues when a Democrat wins the presidency.
Right. You're absolutely right. And just real quick, my comparison would be with the Giants beating the Dodgers. But
you mean the Dodgers beating the Giants, right?
Yeah. I mean, we can have that offline, but that's fine. But you
gotta love that rivalry.
When it comes to calling people out as well, I mean, you're right. We don't have as many issues when there is a Democratic administration, but obviously we've had issues, and in my opinion, I have no problem, and I feel labor as a whole has absolutely no problem calling out whomever, regardless of what letter, DR or an I is next to your name, right? It is literally, are you standing with us, yes or no? Did you make commitments, yes or no? And if you said yes, then you backtrack. Now we have a problem, and we're going to remember that. Are you going to make up for that? So, I mean, yes, historically, one party has been more in line with labor, and part of the reason why I am, a Democrat, and I was recently reelected to serve as a delegate in the California Democratic Party, and part of my want to be back in the party is to really enhance labor's voice.
Yes.
Because I feel that over the last couple of years, especially the last 10 years, we have seen a massive shift of rank and file members shift to the center or to the right for whatever reasons. And, I'm not going to judge anybody for that, because
we should have a show on that. I think I have an answer for that. Not that I'm right. I got a theory. Anyway, we should have a show on that.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. And I've seen it. I see it in front of my members. I see the frustration, and I can talk policy and acts that the former administration did. I can say the CHIPS Act, the Jobs Act, like all these things. But when I'm talking to an everyday voter, that just goes over their head.
That's right.
Right. They don't really, not that they're not intelligent, but I'm talking policy. And I think we as the Democratic Party, or we as labor, maybe need to just speak plainly. Right. And I think that the other party does a very good job of just being concise, to the point, and sending a direct message. And I think that within the Democratic Party, there needs to be more of a labor voice, because truthfully, at the very top, there's been a takeover of those individuals who have very large tax breaks. And it's become
$93 a second.
That's right. And they dictate policy, right? And now when we're going up the ranks and saying, hey, we need this for working people, those folks cut a check, say, you know what, I'm gonna slide you this real quick, and just vote no on that, which is problematic. So,
but to that point, I'd like to point out something. I think you make a very, very good point. And that point is that even with Dems, we have problems. And I'll give you an example of where we have problems. And that is that they don't go far enough sometimes. When I hear these people say, I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to do that, what we just experienced with the Biden administration and having even a general counsel at the National Labor Relations Board that was extremely supportive, and she was great. She did a phenomenal job. What we kept trying to explain is part of the system's broken, and you're going to have to make radical changes policy-wise that are not necessarily anchored to a political party. This is what's going to be better for workers. And if you claim to be the party for working people, here's the policy you need to pass to make it easier for workers to organize, or easier for workers to get a contract, make it more punishing for employers to play their game and to do this and to do that. And sometimes what happens is everybody gets a little, they kind of sit back and get a little lackadaisical, because it's like, oh, okay, well, that party's going to take care of us. The reality is they need to get more assertive and make sure that workers see it, because that will carry over even to another party, because the Republican Party will see it, in my opinion, would see and respect that policy, because that is what is driven by the workforce. Clearly, workers have to activate and show their participation. And I think that the point regarding the attack on federal workers is partially because federal workers over the last few decades have been so quiet. They have kind of taken this, well, I don't want to get in the middle. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. It's really not our place. And I've heard I obviously represent a lot of public employees, and I hear this sometimes, and I look at them and go, you're absolutely wrong. You're the only entity that actually can vote for who their boss is. You can't do that at a private entity. And you have a say-so into voting for who your boss is. You absolutely need to participate in that, whether you like it or not, because if you don't participate in it, someone else is going to run the agenda on you, and then all of a sudden your program that you live, work, and breathe in is going to be gutted or changed or privatized, and then you're no longer there anymore. That is what we're facing right now, because workers did not get active. So it's time for them to get active. And the answer to it is for workers to get active, workers to participate. And I'll give you a point to reference in your response by bringing up Utah. I don't know if you listened to my previous shows, but I brought up Utah and said, now imagine if all the police officers in the state of Utah said, you took away my right to bargain on Friday, I'm not coming to work on Monday. Not just one day. I'm not coming to work until you give me the right to bargain back, because you took it from me. Yep. That is when these electeds, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, are going to start paying attention to us. So it's time for everybody to get more assertive. What do you think about that, Robert?
I agree 1,000%. I think that we as labor and those individuals need to get more militant, because you've seen the slow chipping away of workers' rights, of labor protections, of the power of that comes with the CBA just slowly being diminished with laws being passed, with changes in policy over time, with labor reform not being passed, right? To your point, with Utah, I mean, that was just ridiculous.
The Employee Free Choice Act, if you remember that, was one vote, one senator short in 2010. I think it was 2010 or 2011. 2010. In 2010 of passing one, which would have allowed for card checker to be a complete, it would have been reformed, the National Labor Relations Act completely. It would have created card check. It would have created an easier path to organize and for first contracts. It was one vote short. We had 59 votes. We didn't have the 60. And again, a Kennedy sold us short. And you know, he ended up dying. And for the Teamsters, the Kennedys have always been a nemesis for us. You know that. My point for bringing it up is that, and then immediately corporate America convened and realized, oh boy, they were that close. And in 2011, you saw what you saw in Wisconsin with the Scott Walker Act, right? You saw what's called Act 10 or whatever it was. You saw a resurgence of right to work. You saw this lifting up of right to work and passing in states that we thought would never pass before, and because they put billions together through a number of organizations to go out and do exactly what they're doing right now. And don't be fooled, everybody. It's corporate America. Like, you know, this is corporate America that's running the agenda right now, period.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, and that's what, you know, I tell my members all the time. I say, look, again, how you voted, I respect that. That's on, you know, that's you, no problem. But just, I want you to see what's going on. And what happened in Utah was a perfect case study. I just tell them, imagine tomorrow waking up, and obviously it's different because it's private sector, but just imagine if your contract in San Francisco with Local 350 and your employer was
null and void.
What would you do? Right? But I mean, what would you do?
That's what just happened to thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. Yep.
Right. I mean, TSA, right? Just happened to TSA.
47,000 people.
It is truly insane what is going on in this country and how it's affecting just working people and just the haphazard way that it's occurring.
And what they can do is do something about it. They need to call their congressional leader. They need to call their senator. They need to call, and they also need to engage their local electeds and make sure that local policy is passed. I just got a couple more minutes. We've gone a little bit long here. Really appreciate you coming on, Robert. Is there anything you'd like to do to wrap this up? And what do you think of us having a live radio show?
I mean, I think it's awesome. It's very cool. This is awesome. Like I said early in the very beginning, you know, this is a great way to spread the message of labor, not just in San Bernardino County, but it seems like in France as well. I heard that.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool.
335, right?
So that's awesome. I know they do labor real big in France. I've
do.
seen the protests and things like that. We may need to bring some of that over here to California in the United States. But I appreciate all the work you do, and you know, for the labor movement, you know, we just need to keep fighting, get involved in local politics. Like you said, reach out to your local elected officials, be a nuisance, right? If that's what we are, be a nuisance to make our voices heard. Absolutely.
Well, thanks for coming on. Once again, we had Robert Sandoval, who is the grandson of Bob Morales. Thank you very much. Really appreciated all that he did for the labor movement. I'm not sure if you're aware of our Hispanic caucus here at 1932, but you should contact them and talk to them, because Bob, your grandfather, is somebody that is referenced quite often by our Hispanic caucus here at the local union because of a lot of the things that were done during his generation that a lot of people talk about. So again, thank you for what you do. Thank you for what your grandfather did, and thank you for all the work you do at Teamsters Local 350 in the Bay Area, and thank you for your support on all the policies in which we have rolled out in that area. Really appreciate you coming on the Worker Power Hour with Randy Corrigan, and you know, hopefully we can help you guys set up something similar, and we can have an all-labor radio station at some point.
That'd be awesome. I'd love to. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Mark. So Thank you very much, Robert. Man, that was great. Him and Gretchen coming on the show and sharing their perspectives from different parts of the organization. I don't know if you've got to do anything to put this back to its normal feed, but I'll let you guys figure that out on that side. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to take a break. I'm just going to roll right into some of our news because it kind of ties into some of the stuff that we just talked about. In Teamsters Local 1932 news, PERB rules in favor of the Coachella Valley. Our position for Coachella Valley Water District, the Water District had been trying to oppose these workers organizing with the Teamsters over a period of time. Amazingly so that a water district be that, I guess, that animated. But we've got them over the hump. Hopefully, some of you are listening live, and will be. There's a lot of activities being built out right now to engage Coachella Valley Water District. So it's finally over. The legal stuff has concluded, and we now officially represent that unit. We've always been representing them, just we kind of did it through some unorthodox steps until we became the official representative of the unit, and we're proud of that. And so also the Training Center Career Day today from 9 to noon. We had at the Teamsters 1932 Training Center, we hosted a career day, and hundreds of students from across IE came in to Local 1932 to explore careers in various fields. And like I reported earlier, hearing the comments from the students and staff and faculty from some of these school districts is just uplifting, and it's amazing, and it's just a ton of fun. With that, I have somebody yes, they are listening in live, and we are on our way to see the committee. So, congratulations to you. We told you it was going to happen. We just didn't think it would take this long. And I'm referring to the Coachella Valley Water District employees. Didn't think it'd take this long, but it sometimes it does. And we'll be building out for your contract coming up here pretty soon, as well as you're potentially going to see a billboard out in the desert area popping up here pretty soon, because with all this organizing we've done in the area, almost all the water that's being delivered in the lower desert is Teamster water. And so we're going to coin that phrase and have some fun with it. And we're really proud of the fact that we've organized hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of workers out in the desert area between Palm Springs and Coachella Valley. And so next in news, you heard a little bit of reference to this time and time again. I think it's really important for me to take a few minutes to talk about this. Homeland Security ends TSA collective bargaining agreement in an effort to dismantle union protections. The union said that the order would strip collective bargaining rights from roughly 47,000 transportation security officers, or TSOs. Those are the people responsible for staffing airports and checking to make sure passengers do not have weapons or explosives. The decision comes at a time of increasing passenger travel. Screeners see an average of 2.5 million passengers per day. So if next time you go through the airport, those workers that are under a contract, those TSA employees, guess what? An executive order just eliminated. It's trying to eliminate all of their collective bargaining. Yeah, that's me tomorrow. Thank you for pointing that out, Mark. I'll be actually hopping on a plane tomorrow. I gotta fly to New York for something. Obviously for some business. Those of you who know me that know I hate to travel, and especially hate to travel all the way across the country. But
should we have the attorneys on standby for that robust conversation you may have
with the TSA? I'll definitly be well,
not with them.
No, they're going to be receptive, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe their management.
No, I assume their management's probably supportive too. They typically in that space, even managers, supervisors all recognize that collective bargaining is positive for what's needed, because it's big. You're talking very important issues that impact the workplace and workplace safety. So, that this is something that, it's no one said when they were running for office, this is something they're going to eliminate. So pay attention. and do something about it. What you can do something about it is pick up the phone, call. If you were in favor of the individual that's responsible for this, pick up the phone and call somebody and make sure that you know, write them a letter, participate, be involved in the process of solving problems and holding accountable, holding your party accountable, whether they're a Republican or a Democrat, and making sure that they are labor friendly and that that's a primary issue. If you put any other issue in front of labor and you think any other issue is more important than labor, my personal opinion is you're making a mistake. You have the right to make that mistake. But when your protections are lost or the safeguards are lost, you're going to look at it a little different. And I would, some of these other issues that become wedge issues that everybody gets worked up about aren't more important than what puts bread on your table every single day, in my opinion, or what protects your retirement plans and or what protects your health care plan. So for me, I've always tried to occupy that space, regardless of political affiliation. The next item in the news is the German labor union accuses Ford of a dirty trick that could lead to insolvency. A German labor union warned Tuesday that Ford Motor Company's German subsidiary could face insolvency following an announcement of financial investment if economic conditions in Europe don't improve. The move is a dirty trick by management to pave the way for job cuts, according to a news release issued by David Ludtke and Frank Koch, IG Metal Chair Shop Stewards, and Kirsten Klein, chairwoman of IG Metal, Kohn-Leverschein. I hope I pronounced that correctly. That was tough. It's a mouthful. They wrote that the company is terminating a letter of comfort that has existed since 2006. And so trying to keep you up to speed on the labor news. And as we're wrapping up this show, I think it's important for us to spend a couple minutes to talk about something I touched on multiple times during the show, which was if you keep your voice quiet, if you continue to just kind of sit back and say, "Oh, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to upset the apple cart. I shouldn't, take a position in the politics or da-da-da." Well, if you're quiet and look, the absolute, I guess, wrecking ball that's hitting the federal government right now, these are all workers that are losing their jobs. Many of them voted in favor of the administration in which is taking the position to do it. I don't know what the percentage is, but many of them did. And I don't think that whether they voted for him or not has anything to do with the decision. Clearly, if you read Project 2025, you can actually see this as part of Project 2025. And I didn't see anybody campaign on the fact that they were going to do something to this level. Finding efficiencies within the federal government is definitely something to argue about. But doing it in a way where you slash 50% of a department, or you slash this, or you slash that, and you're just, where are these workers going to go? What are they going to do? And I believe that the reason why this has happened is because that workforce has been quiet. In other words, they haven't been engaged. They haven't had a loud voice of participation. It's not like you see a lot of federal workers having these big rallies in Washington, D.C. or anywhere else. And when you see federal workers not exercising their freedom of speech, their freedom to assemble, then they become an easy target. It is less likely for you to be targeted if it's well known that you're going to fight back. Well, the reason it's important for us to talk about this and participate in this subject right now is that going to happen? Let's just boil it all the way down to little old San Bernardino County here. Is that going to happen in San Bernardino County? Is it, we were part of something where we watched a couple measures get on the ballot to attack fire safety in the middle of there being some massive fires. And quite frankly, these were close. These were 50-50 shots where a lot of the population was like, yeah, just cut it. Yeah, whatever, cut it. I want to save a couple bucks on my, but if a fire rips through your neighborhood like we've just seen in the last couple years, maybe I guess if it didn't rip through your neighborhood, you don't care. We got to stop that. we gotta recognize the fact that we can't leave this up to other people. And the reason I bring it up is we have to posture ourselves as willing to fight. We have to be willing to take on whatever we have to take on to prevent that from occupying our space. And some will say, oh, that's in Utah, it's not going to affect us. So that's the federal government. I can tell you right now, being the principal officer of this organization, that many of these things are affecting your job right now if you work for San Bernardino County or any of these cities or agencies that we represent within our local union's jurisdiction. I can show you how every one of these decisions, almost every one of these decisions, has a cascade effect into yours. And most specifically, the funding, the attack on cutting off funding, making sure that certain grants and funding and stuff like that's frozen. That had an immediate ripple effect, an immediate impact to a degree that really, really shook a lot of people. And so, I'm not just going to sit here and say, oh, well, we're upset about what's going on. I'm going to tell you again, we're going to activate. And I know many of you have texted me and or done what we've asked you to do on I'm In. We're about ready to roll out the I'm In campaign. I'm In here literally tonight. Tonight, you are going to receive a text from somebody. If you don't get it tonight, you're going to get it in the next, I would say maybe tomorrow or the day after. I would assume if you are listening, you're pretty closely connected to the network, and you're going to see our I'm In campaign that is going to start activating workers. We've got some exciting things. I'm not going to actually tell you what it is until you actually see it. It'll be released tonight. And this is us actually doing something instead of just sitting around complaining. This is us engaging and challenging people to get involved. Because if I ask everybody to get involved and participate, let me just use your retiree medical as an example for the hundreds of participants that are already getting a benefit from something that's not even 2 years old yet. Is imagine if we just sat back and didn't say anything and didn't fight if somebody came to try to wipe that away. Because that happened to workers before in San Bernardino County. It happened to workers in not just San Bernardino County, but in other areas where they lost their retiree medical. And we have successfully been able to build a system that puts it back in place. And so are we just going to be quiet until somebody attacks it, or are we going to go on the offensive and make sure that we're creating the energy to let people know, look, we're not going to let you get that far. We will bring a fight to you that ultimately will cost you your job as an elected official, and that will be to vote you out of office and make sure that enough people in the region recognize that power. I don't care how many hundreds of thousands of doors that we got to knock on to make that happen. And I've had a lot of people thank me for a lot of the work that I have done over the last 9 years leading this organization. And what I see right now is, I'm going to say it very plainly, do not sit back and wait. Get engaged. Because if you're not going to get engaged and you're not going to fight, then there is nothing worth saving. If you just expect me to do all the work or my team to do all the work and you're not going to engage in it, then guess what? You're going to lose it. And so we're going to challenge you right now to not only what you do, but what people do around you. And making sure that, it's okay if you're making people uncomfortable by asking them to do something. Because I'd rather you be a little uncomfortable now asking you to do something than you be uncomfortable when you're 63 years old and you don't have a retiree medical and you've run into a healthcare issue that you cannot pay your medical bills any longer. I'm sorry. I'd rather you be uncomfortable now with a conversation that you don't like versus feeling that uncomfortable that I just explained to you. So it's important that we mobilize, we are militant, and we do it in a respectful way that elected officials and the population recognizes We are going to fight for what we have earned. Not deserve, earned. Not just deserved, earned. Everybody works hard, and this whole pitting one another against, to fight in confrontation in an anger-filled way is unacceptable. And so when you see this stuff come out, I need you to activate. I need you to activate everybody around you, and it's okay to challenge people and to push them into this space. That's how we build worker power. It's the whole name of the show. It's just what you see on our billboards and what you see on the buses and what you see in all this space that we're occupying is we're trying to explain to working people every day that they have worker power. And how do you build worker power? You build worker power by talking to your friends, talking to your neighbors, by engaging them and asking them to do something, even if it makes them a little uncomfortable. That's okay, because if you have worker power, you do not have to worry about your rights being stripped. You do not have to worry about someone taking something from you. So how do you build worker power? You talk to your friends. You talk to your relatives. You talk to your neighbors. And you make sure you encourage them to organize a union. You see us, Think a Teamster campaign all over the Inland Empire. You got to participate in it just like the rest of us do. This is Randy Corrigan and the Worker Power Hour. I am a longtime organizer, first-time radio host. KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM in the Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network, live from San Bernardino. Eric, take it away, and I will see you guys next week.
Like it's your birthday, and you know we don't give up, cause that's your birthday. You can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. Mama, I got what you need if you need to feel the buzz. I'm into having sex, I ain't into making love, so come give me a hug. You're into getting rough, you can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. Mama, I got what you need if you need to feel the buzz.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future.